All right, let's jump right into a really fascinating idea from the writings of Xu Feng. We're talking about the Tao, which you can think of as, well, basically the fundamental operating system of reality itself.
Have you ever wondered if there's some kind of hidden order to everything? An invisible logic that somehow connects the flutter of a butterfly's wings to a storm halfway across the world? Well, we're going to explore that very question by looking at the Tao, which is basically a framework for understanding the underlying rules of the universe. So, what is the Tao exactly? The source material defines it as something much, much bigger than just a path or a way. It's described as God's consciousness, the very blood flowing through the veins of the universe. It's the synthesis of all laws. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with what the Tao is, then we'll dive into 3 of its really interesting, almost paradoxical characteristics. And finally, we'll get to the big question: why does any of this even matter?
All right, first things first, what is the Tao? The most important thing to get is that the Tao is presented as this complete set of rules that governs everything. And it's said to have 8 key characteristics. We're not going to cover all 8 today, but we're going to focus on a few that really challenge the way we see the world. So let's jump into the first characteristic. And this one is a real mind bender. It presents this fascinating paradox that the source calls Hundun Xing, which we can translate as a kind of orderly chaos. What does that even mean? Well, the text claims that everything, and I mean everything, no matter how far apart in time or space, is deeply interconnected in one single system. So the flutter of a butterfly's wings in Alaska is connected to a storm at the Cape of Good Hope. A cough you have today could be linked to an insect you ate 10 years ago. It's this radical idea of total, absolute connection. But here's the crucial part. This isn't just random, messy chaos. No. The source makes a really important distinction. It uses the term Hundan to describe an ordered system. Think of it like an invisible celestial net that's so incredibly complex, it just looks chaotic to us from our limited perspective. And this quote from the text just nails it. The celestial net is vast, coarse, but nothing is lost. It perfectly captures this idea that inside this massive interconnected web, every single action, every thought, every event, it's all accounted for. Nothing ever just disappears. Nothing gets lost. Okay, wait a second. If everything is this giant, chaotic web, then how can anything be predictable at all, right? That brings us to the second characteristic, which seems like a total contradiction. It's called Hangzhou Kekaoxing, which means permanent reliability. So despite all that chaos, the Tao also operates on these unwavering, totally dependable laws. The sun always rises in the east. Seeds always grow into plants. And you can bet that if you plant a potato, you're going to get a potato, not a sweet potato. The source is really clear that this consistency applies to everything, from physical laws to even moral ones, like good deeds being rewarded and evil deeds being punished. So the big takeaway here is that in this view of the universe, there are no accidents, not a single one. Everything that happens is the necessary result of these reliable universal laws. What looks like a coincidence to us is really just a law that we don't fully understand. Yet. So, how do we square this? How can the universe be both a chaotic web and a system of rigid, predictable laws? Well, the third characteristic gives us a clue. It's called Shunxi Gangyi Bianyi Xing, and it suggests the system isn't just a machine, it's alive. It has what you could call instantaneous responsiveness. So what does that mean? It means the Tao isn't some static, pre-programmed machine just chugging along. It's a living, dynamic system that's constantly sensing, recording, and responding in real time. It reacts to every single event, every action, and yeah, even every single thought you have, instantly. And this is where it gets really personal. The text says, you can't deceive the Tao. Why? Because the Tao is within you. It's part of your very being, in every cell and every breath. So any attempt to trick this system is really just tricking yourself. This next quote just sums it all up so powerfully. You don't change, the Tao doesn't change. You change, the Tao changes with you. See? While the underlying laws are permanent, the system's response to you is totally flexible. It directly mirrors your own state, your own actions. The universe literally changes with you. Okay, so this is all incredibly fascinating philosophy, right? But what's the point?
What's the practical application? Why does understanding this cosmic operating system actually matter in our day-to-day lives? Well, it matters because understanding this is the key to a really profound shift in how you see everything. It's about moving from feeling like you're trapped by fate to achieving a real state of freedom.
So how do you get there? The text lays out a path. First, you have to really grasp the paradox. The universe is both unchangingly reliable and instantly responsive. Second, you align your actions with that reality. You stay firm on your ultimate goal, but you're flexible in how you get there, navigating the system. And finally, you find inner peace by realizing that your external world is just a mirror of your internal state. When you do that, you move from what's called the kingdom of necessity, where you feel like a victim of circumstance, into the kingdom of freedom, where you navigate life with purpose and skill.
And this is what that state of freedom looks like. It's described as being able to face a collapsing mountain without blinking, or being able to smile even with a knife at your neck. It's not about being emotionless. It's about achieving an inner peace so deep and so profound that the chaos outside just doesn't shake you anymore. And that brings us to the final thought the source leaves us with. A question, really. It says, everything is a game. So, are you playing or are you being played? The idea is to stop seeing life as this chaotic struggle and start seeing it as a game. And like any game, if you want to play it well, you have to understand the rules. You have to understand the Tao. So the real question isn't whether the universe has a blueprint, but whether you're going to use it. Are you playing the game, or is the game playing you?